Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 316. Taste of Ruin. Part 1. Twisted Guy. The fourth wall seemed to know this wall. There was also a brief mention of it in Ways of Survival. Like Jang Haeng's unidentified wall, it was one of the walls that had a strong power but whose origins were unknown. Wall dividing good and evil is measuring your goodness and evil. The fourth wall is snorting. Wall dividing good and evil is confused on how to judge your existence. Wall dividing good and evil was the standard for dividing good and evil in this world. The power to distinguish between good and evil in the star stream responded to Metatron's rational doubt. If the skill named someone evil, the constellations belonging to the absolute good system had the right to vote on that decision, and the result would be reflected immediately. Young Heewan's judgment time was a power that shared the probability of this wall. Why are you confused? It isn't the first time you've seen the owner of a wall. I didn't know you would bring it out of all a sudden. Then are you going to define me as an evil person? I know the decision was withdrawn in the past. I don't think so. As you said, you are useful. I didn't know Metatron's exact thoughts. The only thing certain was that he intended to use me to prepare for Eden's future destruction. The wall on which all the S are written. You have read about Eden's destruction there. Isn't that right? I was a bit surprised. Metatron of this time seemed a bit different from the Metatron I knew. He knew the existence of Ways of Survival. He also called the wall by the last wall. The moment I was about to answer, the fourth wall interrupted. Kim Dok-ja, don't speak nonsense. I closed my mouth. Metatron said. The wall seems to have made you silent. As expected from the largest fragment of the last wall. Do you know what the last wall is? Metatron made an unknown expression at my question. Are you asking because you are curious, or do you have another purpose? I stared into Metatron's eyes without speaking. Metatron smiled wryly. Okay. Instead, turn off the channel. They should have seen plenty of Eden. The next moment, indirect messages exploded from the sky. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is scratching his head. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is emitting light from his fingernails. The constellation Bald General of Justice is impressed by the heavenly scene. Some constellations are pleased with the Tour of Eden. 50,000 coins have been sponsored. Just like the underworld, there were many constellations wondering about Eden. Bayu made a sound and closed the channel. Metatron touched a thick stack of books and started talking. The last world is the wall that constitutes the essence of this world. It has existed for a long time and crumbled, leading to a broken wall. Metatron touched a book so old it felt like it would fall apart with one touch. The wall dividing good and evil is one of the fragments of this wall. How many have these walls? I don't know exactly. I didn't hear it from him. I wondered who Metatron was referring to with him. In fact, it was a foolish thought. There was only one being who would be called him in Eden. Metatron continued speaking. Every wall has a meaning. Some walls distinguish between good and evil, while others control communication. Some walls can also change the future of a given world. Metatron stared at me and spoke in a serious voice. I think you are the key to change the set destruction. Metatron's expectations for me were so clear that it was a bit burdensome. I deliberately spoke with confidence. Scribe, you must be making a single story. Yes. I am currently a newcomer who is only in the succession stage. Do you think I can do this? No one knows which story will be chosen at the end. Metatron turned his gaze towards the window of the office. The sun coming into Eden shone on Metatron's beautiful face. Some parts were covered in a dark shade while others became abnormally bright. In the unequal light, Metatron's face seemed strangely distorted. We can only carefully choose the method of worship from a category we can understand. Perhaps this was the story that Metatron thought of. I quietly watched Metatron and opened my mouth. It was time to get to the main point. It doesn't matter what you use me for. Instead, I have one condition. You have come here to save incarnation, Usanga. In any case, it was good that the story was fast. Metatron seemed to have already grasped the details of Usanga through the broadcast. The flow of consciousness is a very dangerous disease, and investing probability recklessly can cause a big loss. They will be swept away by the rapids of the exiting stories. Is there no solution? There is. If you believe and practice the great words like other archangels in this garden, it means I have to join Eden. That isn't possible. For now, it is best to strengthen the incarnation body to the limit to alleviate the disease. It is recommended to obtain items to do this. It shouldn't be things like the Great Return pill made by the humans of Murim. Instead, it should be star fruits or star fluids that contain the miracle of a giant story. Star fruits and star fluids. Metatron read my expression and smiled. Eden has some leftover nectar, but it can't be used for your purpose. Eden's star fruit is a bit special. I already knew. There was no one on Earth who didn't know the identity of Eden's star fruit. Then there is no way. I was a bit discouraged. I thought it was possible for Eden, but I guess I was thinking too much. Then Metatron added, there is no way in Eden. The door of the office opened. A man walked into the office, collapsing the high stacks of books. I looked at the body covered with a dazzling light and unknowingly invoked my status. It has been a long time, Demon King of Salvation. Young-Hee-Won had an excursion through Eden. The angels were mostly friendly, and some asked her questions. Most of them were questions about Kim Dokja and Yoo Jong-hyuk, but she thought that was natural. The two people were currently the most popular on the Korean peninsula. Rather, if something was bothering her, then it was her sponsor repeatedly losing her soul. Uriel. Yes, he won. I understand. Yes, he won. You aren't listening to me, are you? Yes, he won, The surprised Uriel glanced between the list of ranks engraved on the slab Young-Hee-Won was holding and the palace. WL. Ah, right. I was explaining the order of the angels. So our ranks are, if you're so nervous, why don't you go see for yourself? Young-Hee-Won talked about going to the office in the palace, and Uriel became pale. That. No. I should distinguish between business and personal matters. You can give the explanation to Eden later. He will be thankful that you came to meet him. Young-Hee-Won saw the terrible demon-like judge of fire, flustered like this, and laughed. It was a sponsor she couldn't hate. Uriel touched her cross earrings and bit her lips before looking up. Can I go see Kim Dokja? Of course. Uriel's expression lightened up at Young-Hee-Won's permission. Then next moment, Uriel thought of something and her eyes became sullen. No, I can't. Why? That. Uriel rolled her eyes and wriggled her fingers. She was so cute that Young-Hee-Won laughed. Her sponsor felt like a big sister. Young-Hee-Won glanced at Uriel's gloomy expression and asked, if you like Dokja SSI so much, you should go see him. What are you hesitating about? Uriel turned red at the question, made gibberish gestures, and bowed her head with a sigh. I'm shy. Why are you shy? You always send him indirect messages. A fan letter is different from talking to the person directly. Didn't you meet him last time? At a banquet or something. It was just an incarnation body then. Now I'm different. It is like meeting an online game avatar in person. It was an analogy suitable for a constellation. I don't mean that the time I spent with you is like a game. I mean, in a figurative sense. Young-Hee-Won smiled at the struggling Uriel. Perhaps this was the difference between her sponsor and other constellations. It might be the reason why Kim Dokja wasn't vigilant towards Uriel. Young-Hee-Won was about to answer when her lips stiffened. A bad feeling went down her spine. In the distance, someone turned a corridor in the palace and headed for the scribe's office. It was in Kim Dokja's direction. It was an extremely high status, and Young Hee-won was horrified when she saw the person. Uriel. That constellation. Young Hee-won knew this existence. There was no way she couldn't know. It was because he was the person who made the last Demon King selection a nightmare. She turned her head and saw Uriel staring at her with a hardened expression. I want to go see. Uriel nodded. The sound of a huge train leaving the tracks filled my ears. It felt like memories were revived just by facing them. This was Eden, and the constellation couldn't attack me. Even so, my instincts remembered it, and my status reacted violently. There was a sublime voice reminiscent of sunlight. You aren't as polite as I thought you would be. Are you still reflecting on the past story? I would be hit in the back of the head in the star stream if I didn't remember it. You might be a constellation, but you haven't escaped from the mentality of a human. A constellation doesn't dwell on such trivial history. For arms attached to a body. The third eye looked down at me softly. The miserable battle during the Demon King selection still gave me chills. Surya. Did the demon hunting turn out well? Metatron spoke, and Surya passed by me like he wasn't interested. The heads of a Grand Duke demon were hanging from Surya's waist. Surya pulled off the heads and placed them on Metatron's table. Metatron examined the state of the heads and said, the rewards will be sent via the nebula. Perhaps Surya had received a contracted sub-scenario through Eden. Like Michael and Uriel, the supreme god of light was a nightmare for demons. No, I'd like it now. I don't have much of a relationship with my nebula these days. Surya glanced at me as he spoke. Metatron replied. Come to Eden. Stop joking about that. The matter is over, so I'm leaving. Surya headed to the exit of the office with this remark. Metatron stared at Surya's back with a faint smile. I was taken aback. I felt nervous, but he didn't come here because of me. Then Surya's footsteps stopped in front of the door. Demon King of Salvation, I was told that one of your colleagues has a special illness. Surya spoke without looking back. If you want, I can help. At this moment, information from Ways of Survival quickly passed through my head. Surya is one of the 8 locapula of Vedas. He and the locapula are the origins of the star fluid of Vedas, the Soma dot. Veda's star fluid, the Soma. Then it was likely he could improve the condition of Usanga. I looked over at Metatron. He smiled faintly at me with a shifty expression. This scribe knew from the beginning that Surya would come here. Yet it wasn't even possible for this schemer to stop the destruction of Eden. I realized that the fate of the star stream was harsh. I asked without looking at Surya, what do you want? Soma was a drink that could only be enjoyed by a few privileged gods in Vedas. He wouldn't give me such a gift without strings attached. The supreme god of light slowly turned his head. A demon-like smile was on Surya's face. I want Olympus ruined. Chapter 317. Taste of Ruin. Part 2. Surya approached and stood in front of me. He was at least 20 centimeters taller than me. I opened up more of my status to counteract the pressure he was emitting. The office was suddenly flooded with Surya's energy. The conversation from now on was between constellation and constellation. The ruin of Olympus, is that your meaning or Veda's meaning? Is it important? It is important. I expected the troubles between big nebulae to be in full swing by now. They pursued cooperation with me in order to ruin each other, but originally, Vedas, Olympus, and Papyrus weren't solid alliances. All big nebulae were in a potentially competitive position when pursuing a single story. Surya thought for a moment before replying. I don't like Olympus and Vedas. Is this enough for an answer? It was a vague answer. Yet in a sense, it was the answer I wanted. Based on the original Ways of Survival, Surya was definitely a heretical constellation of Vedas. It is an answer. I have enough authority to give one Soma. Don't you know who I am? Surya was the source of Soma, an immortal beverage. If I got his promise, then obtaining Soma definitely wouldn't be a problem. By the way, things had become interesting. Metatron's finger moved like it was pleasant to hear our conversation. I watched the finger moving like a metronome and spoke. I still have one question left. The ruin of Olympus is precisely the 60th scenario, Gigantomachia. That is just a theme park event. They will summon a few giants to hunt and if they aren't serious, you would make them serious. Since when had he been listening to me? Did he subscribe to Bayou's channel? Olympus won't suddenly be destroyed because of the scenario. However, it is possible to provide a stepping stone to the ruin. How? Haven't you already thought about how to do this? The third eye on Surya's forehead was white. I gazed at his eyes. Indeed, I couldn't step back and pretend ignorance. It is absurd with my power, or the power of my nebula. Of course, this didn't mean I had no way. Metatron's finger stopped moving at my words. I watched Metatron. Scribe. Take responsibility for calling this person here. What responsibility do you mean? Be a witness for this agreement. Metatron made an intrigued expression. His wait-and-see expression was transformed into a schemer. What are the benefits of being a witness? I will give you a stake in the giant story I will obtain this time. A stake in a giant story. No matter the scenario, the giant story was a temptation that couldn't be ignored by a nebula. In addition, the archangels of Eden needed an enormous number of giant stories because incidents occurred every day and they needed to diffuse the probability storm. Metatron nodded with satisfaction. Naturally, your mouth can't be empty. What do you mean? It is enough to stand witness. You want to take a stake in a giant story with just that? Where did an archangel's conscience go? The fourth wall is nodding. The wall dividing good and evil is looking closely at its master. Faint embarrassment crossed Metatron's face. Sometimes justice would devour its master. Surya shook his head and muttered. Truly a demon king. Demon king of salvation, is there anything you want in Eden? I nodded. There were many things I wanted. It was because one or two preparations wasn't enough for the future Gigantomachia. Kim Doctor recalled the 1863rd round. I wouldn't lose anyone. In Kim Doctor's mind, the information of ways of survival appeared and disappeared. From now on, it was likely that high-ranking constellations would join the battle. It wasn't just Surya, but the other low capilla of Vedas and some of Olympus' 12 gods could participate in the scenario. Was that all? It might be possible to encounter senior demon kings, like the Demon King selection. Maybe Michael as well. Michael. Finally, Kim Dokja made a decision. I looked at one of the items arranged on a shelf behind Metatron. Give me one of Eden's star relics. A few minutes later, Kim Dokja finished his contract with Surya and stood at the entrance of a portal. Unlike when he came in, this was the front door. Several angels came to see him off. Already? Uriel was full of regret as she grasped Yong Heewan's hand. Yong Heewan looked at Uriel and hugged her tightly. The initially embarrassed Uriel soon hugged Yong Heewan back. Her face was full of emotions. The constellation Lily Pin of Aquarius is looking at incarnation Yong Heewan. Gabriel's indirect message came from somewhere. Kim Dokja looked at the sky as if thinking about something. Then he told Yong Heewan, I'm sorry to interrupt the emotional farewell, but Heewan SSI will stay here for another week. Huh? Don't worry, I already spoke to the scribe. Uriel's eyes widened at the words. Really? Is that possible? Of course. Instead, please train Heewan SSI. You've been absent for the past 3 years. Yes. Leave it to me. Kim Dokja turned away from the widely smiling Uriel towards Yong Heewan. Heewan SSI, I'll meet you a week later in Olympus. I understand. I'll be sure to become stronger when I go back. A short handshake later, Kim Dokja disappeared into the portal. Some angels looked disgruntled while others sighed. The brief event ended and the angels returned to their positions. Gabriel watched from a distance. Gabriel. Scribe. Gabriel bowed towards Metatron, who appeared behind her. Why didn't you meet him and talk? Gabriel didn't answer. Jophiel's matter isn't your fault. But Jophiel is strong. She is doing her job properly. Her choice will be the first step in preventing Eden's destruction. Gabriel's clear eyes shook at the word destruction. Her lips opened like she wanted to ask something. A message has arrived. In the sky, a message for Metatron arrived. Surprisingly, the sender of the message was Commander of the Red Cosmos. This is a report on the identity of the Outer God, secretive plotter. Metatron spoke while reaching out for the report. Soon, the real war will begin. It was a bustling street reminiscent of a battlefield. On the way to the auction house, countless merchants were selling all types of items. Yu Jong-hyuk spoke behind him. Go quickly. Despite his harsh words, Yu Jong-hyuk was constantly concerned with Lee Sealwa's movements. He blocked the front of her like he was worried she would be hurt by the passing incarnations and constellations. Some of the incarnations cursed him, but Yu Jong-hyuk didn't care. You should be avoiding us, pedestrians first. Yu Jong-hyuk shamelessly was so high that Lee Sealwa laughed. Yu Jong-hyuk asked, why are you laughing? Jong-hyuk SSI said that you are a regressor. That's right. Then did you meet me in your previous life? Yu Jong-hyuk had no answer for a moment. No. I see. An awkward atmosphere formed between the two people. Lee Sealwa glanced sideways at Yu Jong-hyuk. He was someone who seemed to be walking in the far distance, despite being by her side. Lee Sealwa smiled bitterly. Slow down a little bit. There might be items or skill books that you want to buy. There's no time for that. I already bought one? Lee Sealwa smiled and waved the skill book in her hand. Skill, preserve humidity. Yu Jong-hyuk confirmed the skill book and narrowed his eyes. You bought a useless skill. Lee Sealwa was already using the skill as her cheeks and lips were moistened. It was harder to find the daily necessities after the scenario began, and these life skills were gaining huge popularity, regardless of gender. Lee Sealwa glanced at Yu Jong-hyuk's face and spoke, Jong-hyuk SSI, don't you need it? The back of your hand and your lips are dry. This city's temperature is low overall, so your skin becomes dry quickly. You don't need skills that aren't for combat. But Dr. SSI has this skill as well? Yu Jong-hyuk's eyebrows twitched. Kim Dokja has this skill? Yes, he said this is required if you want to be popular with constellations. That guy wants to be an idol. Yu Jong-hyuk gritted his teeth and kept moving. Lee Sealwa looked at Yu Jong-hyuk like he was funny. She didn't know why, but this cold-hearted man became angry whenever he heard Kim Dokja's name. Yu Jong-hyuk's eyes shifted towards a stand. Minus 50% discount on skill books. Lee Sealwa couldn't help laughing. Do you want to buy one? Yu Jong-hyuk's step stopped. She wondered if he liked an item, but something was wrong. His fists were trembling. Anger overflowed from Yu Jong-hyuk's eyes and dominated his expression. Yu Jong-hyuk SSI? The entrance to the auction house could be seen in the distance. A group of incarnations was entering it. A girl with blonde hair. Lee Sealwa felt her heart sink. Yu Jong-hyuk couldn't control his killing intent as his hand moved towards the black demon sword. Jong-hyuk SSI, wait. Lee Sealwa instinctively grabbed Yu Jong-hyuk's arm. She knew the identity of the blonde girl. Asgard's prophet. She remembered the story. Yu Jong-hyuk of the last round died after being betrayed by her. No. This place, the other members. Her heart was in a hurry. No matter how strong Yu Jong-hyuk was, this place was the auction house of constellations. It was a place where low-grade and great-grade constellations gathered. Moreover, Yu Jong-hyuk's enemy wasn't alone. If he rushed over now, I thought it would be like this. There was a sarcastic voice, and Han Soo-young was standing there. Have you forgotten? Kim Dokja told you not to get into trouble. Han Soo-young clicked her tongue like he was pathetic and flicked a coin around her fingers. Yu Jong-hyuk replied in a cold voice, "This is none of your business." "None of my business? Aren't we companions?" "Companions?" Yu Jong-hyuk's expression distorted. "You aren't. This is the bottom line. Hey, you might be the protagonist but…" Soo-young SSI. The words of the latecomers caused Han Soo-young to touch her forehead and mutter, "Sigh. I can't live because of Kim Dokja and Yu Jong-hyuk. Anna Croft should be removed here." "Well, Kim Dokja doesn't want that. It has nothing to do with Kim Dokja. You just want to deal a blow to her?" Yu Jong-hyuk paused and glanced at Han Soo-young. Han Soo-young stared back at Yu Jong-hyuk for a moment before turning her gaze to the entrance of the auction house. "What if I have a good idea?" There was an item in Han Soo-young's hand. Yu Jong-hyuk's eyes shook. "That. I sneaked it out from Kim Dokja's coat." A wicked smile formed on Han Soo-young's face. "Let's test it once, the prophecy ability of the prophet." Chapter 318. Taste of Ruin. Part 3. The auction house was one of the few places where it was possible to obtain items that were difficult to find on the Dakibi bag or general exchange. Prophet Anna Croft had a few items to obtain here. Anna Croft spoke the constellations of Olympus behind her. "The guards aren't a problem?" "Of course. Originally, this auction house is under the legal authority of our Olympus. In this context of the constellation, no one can touch you." "Thank you." Anna Croft bowed and the shadow of the constellation protecting her disappeared. Anna Croft spoke towards Selena Kim. "Then let's go in." "Yes." Selena Kim replied in a dark voice. As they moved through the corridor of the auction house, Anna Croft glanced at Selena Kim's expression. Selena Kim, who was always smiling and kind to everyone, wasn't smiling anymore. "Selena." "Yes." In fact, Anna Croft knew when this change happened. The Gourmet Association. It was after meeting the Demon King of Salvation. "It's nothing." Selena Kim lowered her head and looked forward again. Anna Croft felt strangely alone, even though she had predicted it to some extent. She couldn't properly cope with some things even if she knew the future. This was particularly true for human emotions. The 8611th constellation auction will begin. However, now wasn't the time to be focused on such things. Anna Croft saw the constellations and incarnations filling the seats and reaffirmed her commitment. There was no one with an easy status, no matter where she looked. They were all deadly enemies. The first auction item. A senior Dakibi stood at the podium of the auction. Anna Croft and Selena Kim took the seats they preempted in advance and participated in the auction. Several items were sold in an instant and Anna Croft bought some of them. A manticore's teeth. Scales of an ancient dragon. Old Yeti's leather. Her main purchases were rare material items. All her items were identified through Future Sight and there were no errors on the list. "I need these items to make a giant soldier." Some incarnations participated in the bidding competition, but she already confirmed their highest bid price through Future Sight and there was no problem winning the items. Anna Croft finished checking the list and stood up on the spot. "It is roughly over. Then let's. Now, we have a special product today." Anna Croft turned at the voice that came from the stage. Selena Kim saw Anna Croft's reaction and asked, "What's wrong?" "It's nothing." Anna Croft stared at the auction house with a stiff expression. "This is an item called the Old to New Toad." "Haha, isn't it cute? Since this item is a star relic, I'll give a new house for an hour house." It really knows how to talk. The auction product hasn't finished the appraisal yet, but it is definitely of immense value. There was no such item in the prophecy? The auction list had been confirmed through Future Sight. However, no such item had been seen anywhere in the short film of the future. There was the intervention of a variable that shook Future Sight. Anna Croft glanced at the constellations of Olympus. Some constellations nodded as if to reassure her. She didn't hesitate to cast the great demon's eye towards the stage. The eye glowed with a red light. After a few moments, the hidden features of the old to new toad were seen in Anna Croft's retinas. I have to buy that. Anna? The first auction price is 500,000 coins. The moment the Dakibi spoke, Anna Croft immediately made a bid. 600,000 coins. 600,000 coins have come out. The bidder. Incarnation Anna Croft. It was a larger amount than she thought, but the old to new toad was worth it. Plus, this item has a legendary story. The item eats old items and replaces them with new items of the same rating. Plus, the feature itself was simple. Eat old items and spitting out other items of the same rating. The words were simply, but the application was infinite. Contact the nebula and collect as many coins as possible. Why this item? With this, we can get the items we want at any time. The other constellations and incarnation didn't seem to know the usage of this toad yet. Thus, she had a chance to win the bid right now. The highest bid is currently 600,000 coins. If there isn't any more, at this moment. 700,000 coins. Someone made a bid. Oh. 700,000 coins have come out. There was a light from the other side of the audience that showed a bid. A demon sword that absorbed the sunlight. Anna Croft's expression hardened. The bidder is Incarnation Yu Jonghyuk. Yu Jonghyuk emerging after Anna Croft caused a small turmoil in the auction house. Both of them were famous incarnations of Earth. Anna, if things go wrong. This is fun. I never thought the Supreme King would be here. Anna Croft was laughing. She raised her hand and cried out, 800,000 coins. Incarnation Anna Croft has bid 800,000 coins. 900,000 coins. 900,000 coins. 900,000 coins have come out. Yu Jonghyuk didn't give up. It was an auction war they had to stick to. The atmosphere of the auction house started to heat up after the amount exceeded 1 million coins. It was a climb that could cause a price bubble, but Anna Croft was relaxed. You can't beat me. Dizziness occurred along with a short headache. A part of the future emerged in Anna Croft's retinas. She used future sight and succeeded in reading the maximum amount Yu Jonghyuk could pay. 1,280,000 coins. Incarnation Anna Croft has bid 1,280,000 coins. Yu Jonghyuk was silent at Anna Croft's bid. It was as expected. Now, if there are no further bids. Anna Croft smiled. 1,280,000 coins was a huge amount, but it was hard to see it as a loss. The old to new toad was a worthy item, and if she obtained it. 2 million coins. The voice of a woman was heard from right above her, and Anna Croft's body whipped around. She wasn't the only one who was shocked. Did she say 2 million coins? Suddenly such an amount, it is the emergence of Han Suyang, a newly rich person. Who? Don't you know? Black Flame's demon ruler Han Suyang, the leader of the Han Suyang Corporation and the real power of Kim Dokja's company. Li Hyansung, sitting beside Han Suyang, asked with surprise, Suyang SSI, is that true? Since when? Anna Croft stared at Han Suyang with wide eyes. The Black Flame's demon ruler of the Korean peninsula. It was a name Anna Croft knew well. What trick is this, Black Flame's demon ruler? I just want that toad. Anna Croft once again used future sight. It might be a short-term prediction, but using future sight so many times in one day placed a huge burden on her body. Still, it couldn't be helped. This had already become a showdown of pride. The maximum amount of money that Han Suyang would pay appeared before Anna Croft's eyes. How long had it been? Anna Croft wiped the nosebleed that occurred from her overloaded body and opened her mouth. I bid 3 million coins. Anna. The startled Selena Kim shouted. However, Anna Croft was adamant. I must buy it. Anna Croft's future sight showed that Han Soo-young's amount of money was 2,999,999 coins. 3 million coins has come out. The Dakibi was dancing with joy. Large cheers filled the venue. As expected of the prophet. I heard she was shrewd and cunning, but she was a big person. The audience was wowed, but Anna Croft wasn't the least bit excited. Anna, 3 million coins is unreasonable. This is too much damage. I can get a Dakibi loan. Going so far. It is a loss, but in some senses, it isn't a loss. I can't concede it to them, and that is enough to make it not a loss. What? The fact that they made such a large follow-up bid shows they are desperate for this item. Anna Croft glanced at Han Soo-young and Kim Dokja's company. The fact that they had come here showed they were likely to participate in Gigantomachia. If they were going to meet one day, she needed to break them now. In fact, Han Soo-young was raising both hands like she lost. This? I can't afford it. We lost. Completely and 100% lost. This is why the world is unfair. We can win against a golden incarnation. Something was weird. Anna Croft clearly won the bid, but why did they look like they were enjoying it? Those who have won the items, please come down to the stage. Anna Croft turned to the stage at the Dakibi's call. The feeling of discomfort still hadn't disappeared. She viewed the faces of Han Soo-young and the expressionless Yoo Jong-hyuk. She wanted to use future sight, but she had already reached the limit for today. Wait, don't tell me? Anna Croft stood in front of the auctioneer and reflexively asked, this product, who is the contributor? That. Kim Dokja's company. I won't buy it. Huh? The Dakibi looked surprised. We can't refund products that have already been sold. If you do not pay the amount, this is obviously a scam. Thus, I won't buy it. A scam? Anna Croft pointed at Kim Dokja's group. They induced an artificial price competition. They had no intention of buying this item in the first place. Han Soo-young clicked her tongue at Anna Croft's claim. What are you saying? I really wanted to buy it. Even if you wanted to buy it, this auction is invalid. They are the contributors of this product. Isn't it forbidden for contributors to participate in the auction? In the end, Han Soo-young and Yoo Jong-hyuk glanced at each other. The senior Dakibi spoke, that, it is correct. It is certainly forbidden for contributors to participate in the auctions of their own products. Anna Croft nodded like she knew it. Please check the contributor. The contributor will surely be one of them. Okay. Please wait a moment. The members of Kim Dokja's company were making troubled expressions. On the other hand, Anna Croft's expression was filled with relief and triumph. It was a pretty good trap. She was the prophet, yet she almost got hit. By the way, the Dakibi checking the contributor cocked his head. Strange. None of them are the contributor. Huh? Han Soo-young laughed. Didn't I tell you? I really wanted that toad, then the contributor is. At this moment, the door of the auction house opened wide. A dazzling light entered from outside the auction house, and the white coat was shaken by the wind. The man in the white coat walked past Han Soo-young and Yoo Jong-hyuk. The man who came up to the stage was someone Anna Croft knew well. The man smiled and held out his hand like he was asking for a handshake. 3 million coins. It was Kim Dokja.